Thank you for joining us for today's Small Business Support Workshop, Social Media Marketing, Choosing the Right Channels for Your Business. Today's workshop is presented in partnership with the City of Boston and Innovation Studio and will be led by Alicia Piazza and Nicole Eller of Spark Social. I will hand it right over to you, ladies. Thank you for your time and knowledge.
So we'll just introduce ourselves sans slides. So I'm Nicole Eller and Alicia Piazza, and we are, self-proclaimed foodies, dog lovers, Rhode Island transplants, and the founders of the Spark Social. So we are, marketers who've been working with local businesses for over 10 years between us, and we have a small team of fellow marketers that we employ here in Rhode Island who are some of them actually live closer to you guys. So, but we're a mostly remote team that works really hard for businesses in across all different platforms, all different industries, from retail services, restaurants, to metal refining and, manufacturing. So it's more for us about who we can work with and if we can make a difference for them. Alicia is also a podcaster. She has the podcast, The Marketing Essentials Team, and I am the former president of AMP-RI. This was my last year. It's the Association of Marketing Professionals in Rhode Island. So that's a little bit about us as we get started, so that for those of you who have never seen us, either socially or mentioned before, or didn't get a chance to stalk us online before this, you have a feel for who we are and what expertise we bring to the table.
I'll let you take it away, Nicole.
So as we get started, I want you guys to be thinking about these important aspects of your marketing. Who's your audience? How much time do you have to devote to what you do? And what kind of content do you have to share? So those are sort of, those are sort of things to keep in mind. Most importantly, when thinking about your audience, is understanding how they come to find you. So if you're not familiar with the term buyer's journey, I super encourage you to Google that, learn more. You probably have a session with someone here about it, understanding your audience and their buyer's journey. So do you want to go through this list a little bit or?
Yeah, so the buyer's journey in a nutshell is the path people take to find your service. So it's almost like an exercise where you need to put yourself in your customer's shoes. And you should probably be doing this often, just from a troubleshooting standpoint, to see what are their pain points, what are the things they're looking for, how would they use my website? But essentially, to figure out what platforms you should be using, put yourself in your customer's shoes. So are you an emergency service? Most likely they're not going to go to Facebook, or they're not going to go to Instagram. If they're in a jam, they're going to go to Google. Do you sell retail items? Are they going to be clicking over to your Instagram to check out your shop, or coming in through Instagram even? Do you have a service? Are they going to be looking at reviews if you have a service? What do your reviews and online reputation look like? And, are you going to be, if you're not an emergency service, are people going to be asking if we're all in those town groups or business networking groups on Facebook? People are always asking for recommendations, and that's where your service page could be tagged. So was the last time you posted 2018? That's not going to look so great when someone recommends you in a group and they go over to your business Facebook page and it looks like you're out of business. So all these types of things, just really thinking about what is my service and how do people find me? What are they looking for? How do they look for me? And what are the questions? And then kind of making sure that that path to your business is easy for them to access, and that the right content is there.
So obviously, you have a lot of options when it comes to marketing, both online and offline. You can use online, your social media, and we talk about it both organically and as paid advertisements. You can use Google Ads, your Google My Business page, search engine optimization or SEO, email marketing, and your website is obviously a part of that online process. And we say offline-ish because you can always make sure that you're utilizing some of these offline activities in your online activities as well. But if you're doing any of that kind of stuff, just thinking about, okay, well, what am I doing? And, how does it affect my audience and their buyer's journey? And how can I bring those activities online to support what I'm doing online as well? So just some questions again to bring yourself through. We won't go through everything on the list, but just identifying your target audience, knowing the demographics, because that's going to help you figure out what channel makes the most sense for you. So, why are they interested in your service? What are they interested outside of your service or product? Are they, does gender matter in this case? Or sex? Does it matter how old they are? Typically, yes, because that's going to be where you figure out which platform to position on. And then what is your goal? Is it just brand awareness? Do you need leads? Do you need, are you in e-commerce? Are you looking for foot traffic for a restaurant or retail space or, some other service where you need people coming through the door? And where do they spend their time? So, how do they like to be marketed to? What kind of, stuff do they like? Do they want to know more about? And then the big one is always how much time and energy do you need? Because as we talk about some of these channels, some of them require a lot of commitment, a lot of content. And when we say content, we're talking about everything from a video to a written blog or just a post or a picture. So content is sort of a broad term that we use when we're like, well, what are you going to post? What are you going to talk about? So sorry, do you want to do search and social?
Search versus social. It kind of relates back to what I was saying before. If you have a service where you might, people need you at that moment, they, there's water pouring through their basement, they're going to Google. And people will use Google for non-emergency services as well. So, that could be a place where you need to show up. And I would always consider, we offer Google as well, but I consider Google like the yellow pages. It's high intent. And so what that means is back in the day when we needed something, we would open the phone book and we would go right to the page and find someone on that page. If you weren't on that page, you weren't getting the call, your competitor was. So it might not be that you need to do paid ads, but just making sure that you show up organically through Google. You can do paid with Google. And then also, how does social come into play? So, there are services, I consider social like a magazine. So you use Instagram, you use Facebook, you're scrolling through, you're browsing passively, just like a magazine. Oh, I didn't know this roller rink opened in Providence. Now I do because I saw it in the magazine, just like social media works that way. It's not something I probably would have gone looking for on my own, but I happened to come across it in a magazine ad or on social. So you're passively browsing and things are catching your attention. So that is the difference with social. You're starting, again, referring to that buyer's funnel, you're starting higher up in the journey. There's not high intent, but there's still 2 billion people on Facebook and Instagram, even more, which we'll get into. So your audience is there. It's just a different message.
So just a quick visual on, kind of what that looks like. So if you've been on Google and you've Googled something, on the left, you have a Google ad. On the right, you have, sort of a sponsored post on Facebook that might come up. And these are it's the same company. They're on both channels. So in terms of understanding advertising platforms and what they, what they offer, these are just some user statistics. So you can see that there are millions to billions of people who utilize these services every day. They're great for a lot of different things from an advertising perspective, and from a, what type of service or, action you're looking for from your audience. Are you looking for them just to know who you are? Do you want them to fill out a form and become a lead? Do you want them to buy something from you? All of that sort of factors in here.
And I bet most people are saying, well, yeah, I want them to become a lead, but that, because a lead equals business or money and revenue growth. But you also have to remember that on social, it's a different game. So you have to start higher in the funnel with educational content,
For sure.
Value content. And we'll talk a little more about that too.
Yes, we will, I promise. And then this is just a follow-up with some stats on the social media. So some of these are the same as advertising, but we also threw in Snapchat and TikTok. If you have a younger audience, which sounds like most of you might not, then Snapchat and TikTok are something you want to be aware of, you may want to utilize, but that can be a more direct conversation at a later time. It's still, it's still probably not the most effective platform for most businesses that we talk to on a regular basis. But you can always throw your hand up or drop in the chat if you really do think that those channels are right for you. Yes. More demographics. I'm actually not sure what that was. Oh, sorry. Features for the different platforms. Do you want to log on us? I don't even know if we can. Sorry, guys. On the, so for options, you have, Am I on the right presentation? I am not. Sorry. For options on the different sites, you have a lot of different things you can do inside of it. You can utilize stories, influencer marketing, advertising, e-commerce capabilities, and then lead forms. And as you can see, each platform has something that it sort of leans more into. Google and Pinterest are both search-based and not necessarily social media. We don't consider them social media for the purpose of marketing and advertising, but they do also exist and have options for that. So it does, we're going to, because we're a social media agency, we do Google Ads, but we do focus heavily on the social media platforms because it tends to be what people have the most questions about. Because as you can see, there's like 6 channels right here. There's probably like 3 more that you're thinking about, like that, is Clubhouse right for me? Is, should I be on Pinterest? How can I use Google My Business to further things? Those are conversations that, we can definitely have, but right for this conversation, we're going to focus on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and just touch lightly on some of the other platforms.
Alicia, quick question from our community member, Aaron Myers. Hi, Aaron. If you're a B2B rather than a B2C, how does that change your advice regarding the social media and all the different channels?
Yeah, definitely. So we recommend, obviously, it depends on the type of product. First of all, if it's a service or product for B2B, we recommend LinkedIn typically for professional services and business to business. However, Facebook and Instagram could still work. It really depends what your audience is. And so a good example is we have a logistics company. They do transportation. So their main audience is like sawmills and people cutting down trees in the middle, of all over the country and transporting across the ocean and whatnot. But so their main audience is not on Facebook, right? But they need that Facebook presence for 2 reasons. 1, their SEO, and 2, because they're always hiring. So having that social presence really allows them to display like their culture, who they are as a company, their values. They don't get business from Facebook, so they don't spend a ton of time on it, but they also don't let it just like wilt away and die. On the flip side, LinkedIn is where they do have like a lot of associations they're part of, a lot of like trades that are involved in the logistics industry are there. So that's really where they focus, but it all comes back to the audience.
So yeah, and we're definitely going to go over what platforms are sort of best for different types of organizations, and that comes up when we talk about LinkedIn and sort of how to utilize it and who it works for. So, depending on the specificities of their business, it may be that it supports it, or it may be that they need to use it in a very specific way in order to make it work. But we will try our best to kind of cover that as well. I don't know how that happened. Sorry. I touched the mouse.
I will work the mouse. Oh, look, our next slide. We did get into that. So Facebook can be right for B2B because we also have to remember that people are people, right? Like, so you're on LinkedIn, you don't go home and go to Facebook and you forget about your position. So for instance, I own a business, obviously. And so I get marketed to on Facebook for software for my agency, for, different things like mastermind groups for my agency.
CPAs, accounting.
CRM. So it's all things that as a business owner, I'm still a person using Facebook, and I do go on there to check on my friends and family and engage, but I'm being marketed to from a B2B aspect because I'm still a business owner at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. So it really, again, bring it back to that audience and who is that audience and what is their mindset, what is their buyer's path, and where are they likely to look for you. So Facebook works great for almost everything because there's a ton of people on it. I just had someone the other day tell me like, oh, well, people don't look for jobs on Facebook. And that is true. It's not a common thing, but it still gives you a chance to show up as a company. And maybe they saw you on Indeed or Glassdoor, and now you're retargeting them and showing up as a great place to work. So you can keep that in mind when it comes to Facebook. What are we looking at?
So best practices. So when you're choosing your platform, you really need to think about like what kind of time and energy do you have to invest, because these are some of the things that you have to keep in mind with Facebook in particular. It doesn't benefit from URLs and hashtags, whereas most of the other platforms do. Keeping your posts short and sweet, highlighting and engaging with your customers, being active, and you'll see that across the board. Social media is social, it's dynamic. You have to be active. You have to interact with your following. And so, you know, just keeping in mind, Facebook is a pay to play platform, pay to play platform, especially for new pages. So if you are building, you're new to it, you definitely want to consider running something small to build that brand awareness and get in front of new people, unless you already have a highly engaged, you know, audience in another aspect where you can push them to share your content and share and invite friends to like the page. Otherwise, you know, it's not if you build it, they will come. You have to go out and call to them and bring them in.
Yeah, so we would never take on a client who just wanted to use organic Facebook and had high expectations on reach and results. We would always encourage, we would basically demand paid, because it is a quick way to reach a ton of people and target people. So any Facebook questions, I think we're all super familiar with Facebook, but happy to answer any questions on that. Let me just pull up the chat. Sorry.
Okay, so looking at and just keeping in mind that this is a high level overview of these platforms. If you have specific questions regarding your business and these each of these platforms, we're happy to help. But we're doing as high level as we can, so we can cover as much and you know, as much as we can in an hour.
Yes.
We usually run this one way over.
All right.
So,
Nick had a funny comment. I don't know, Nick, if you've heard about Instagram. It's a place where moms go there too. And there are some younger people. We love Instagram for businesses right now because it's really a great way to show your personality, and it also doesn't downplay business pages like Facebook does. So if you have really great content on Instagram, you're going to be able to show up in the highlights, the reels, stories, whatever you want to call them, and your posts are going to get traction. And Instagram, also on the flip side as a business, you have the ability to go out and interact with other businesses. So you can go comment, like, support their posts. So think about that. On Facebook, you're waiting for people to come to your business page. But on Instagram, you have the chance to go out. We have a question. Somebody raised their hand. I can't see your name. I'm sorry.
Chikara raised her hand.
Okay.
Unmute, Chikara. Feel free to ask your question.
Yes, I was just asking, do you have to pay for Instagram too? Because I have a Facebook and an Instagram and a Facebook marketplace, and I feel as if I'm not reaching out to the proper customers. I post daily of all my supplies, and it's usually just friends of friends and then family members. And then if somebody's on their page and they see it, then they'll like. But as far as getting it out there, I don't feel like it's working. So I don't know if I'm doing something wrong.
Well, we'll go through it. We'll go through Instagram and some of the best practices. And if you see something that you're like, oh, I'm not doing that, maybe that's part of why, because we do believe that Instagram is the best platform for organic reach. But you have to do some very specific, you have to take some very specific actions and post and use some very specific types of content to actually get in front of new people.
So Instagram, also great for a lot of businesses. And you may be saying, I'm not a visual business, so I don't have anything to post, but you have yourself. So you have, you know, behind the scenes, who is your team? What does your day look like? What type of tips can you offer? Because a lot of people think of Instagram as product only. That's not the case anymore. You can definitely use it for non-visual services. So and to answer your question, to go back to it. So you said you're posting daily, which is great, but what is like the quality? So this might help you get more reach on your Instagram. What is the quality of the images you're posting? You don't need a professional photographer always, but using images that are, you know, have
they're not blurry.
Yeah, great
you
lighting.
Like your lens.
You know, there are tricks to it. We have an Instagram workshop that we go into businesses and help them basically use their phone to create content, because you have to create it so quickly. So, you know, what is the quality like? On top of that, you know, you said you're posting every day, but are you looking at your insights and kind of looking at what times your audience is on there? And then the second thing I would say is, are you engaging? You know, are you going out and not just coming into Instagram to post, but go out and engage as a business. Believe it or not, the algorithm does take that into account, and we have a whole Instagram workshop on this. But the quickest things are to make sure you're engaging back. So if you go into the platform, you post and you bounce, Instagram's gonna not like that. They want you using the platform as a person, even if you're a business, as a person, and being social, right? Because it's a social platform. So if we just use it as another advertising tool, it's not gonna fly. The other quickest thing that you might want to try is like switching up your hashtags and varying them. That could give you some more reach. And then exploring things like visual stories and using reels. Don't be scared. It can be a little nerve-wracking, but getting out there on video, doing some lives, that type of stuff is really gonna up your level of reach and engagement on Insta. And it's tough. Right? Like I've seen people say, like, I did reels for like 3 weeks, I didn't see anything, and then it just turns. So, you know, just keeping at it, consistency is key. We have some tips here on hashtags, but you know, using 15 to 20, no more than 30, varying between, you can see the popularity of hashtags. So varying between that, and then
so yeah, so with the hashtags, just as you're developing your post, and you can do this as you're creating your content. If you sit down and you create content at, in one set time frame, these are just some examples of choosing between popular hashtags, niche specific hashtags, having your own branded hashtag,
local hashtags,
definitely hitting on local. So who is it that you're actually trying to reach in a local area? Is it hashtag Boston? Is it hashtags Seaport? Is it hashtag like a street or an area? And you also want to make sure that people are actually using those hashtags. So this particular example, we say 100,000 to 500,000 is extremely popular. You can safely go up to 1 million without getting too lost. But once you start seeing hashtags that are hitting, and this is like mentioned, so when you type it into the search, you type in like hashtag foodies, you're going to get like 6 million hits. You're not going to show up for that because you're probably not, your brand is not being followed enough. You're still looking for people. Hashtags and reels right now tend to be the key to being found on Instagram and in increasing your reach. So that's where I would encourage you, like Alicia was saying, to focus is, if you can't create reels, that's okay. You should use stories. If you can't create stories, that's okay. You should make sure that your hashtags are going are optimized. So
we have a quick question from the chat. What is the best place to go find out what the best hashtags are for your business? For example, Stacy's asking, and she has a spa.
You can do it right on Instagram, actually. So if you go to the search bar and you type in, like, say you're in the wedding industry, so Boston weddings or Providence, RI weddings, Providence is too small, but RI weddings, you can see how many people have used that hashtag. On the flip side, that's like a local hashtag. So you could do something like, I don't know what type of spa you are, but like,
hashtag med spa
hashtag med spa or
so
there a service.
And if I also like to see which hashtags my competitors are using and see if they fit into this, into these metrics you've shared.
Absolutely. Yeah. So seeing what we always start our strategy process with seeing what competitors are doing. So we can figure out if it's, is it good or is it meh? But we did actually have one of our team members share a hashtag generator. Now you have to be careful with these. So like there's RiteTag, which is RITE tag.com. There's like a payment platform. Some of the hashtags are really crappy. They're like, thousands or there's lots and lots of hashtags with millions and millions of views. There's also Ingrammar. It's INGRAMER.com. We might drop that in the chat.
I'll try.
But so that one can also help you specifically with Instagram hashtags, but don't just copy and paste them. Check the hashtags and see how they're being used, because the last thing you want to have happen, and this happens a lot, there's only one M. This happens a lot on Twitter more so, but you just want to make sure that you're not grabbing a hashtag that's being used inappropriately, or that you are jumping on a train that you aren't planning on being on. So make sure you're protecting your brand. But also, are those hashtags just millions of hits and are you just going to get lost in the mix? Or are they useful hashtags that you can actually play with, but they'll give you jumping off ideas. So sometimes you just need that little spark of inspiration, that those types of, and just Googling, like, what's a great hashtag for my spot? You'll get stuff from Buffer, Hootsuite, Sprout Social. all kinds of, marketing companies are willing to help you figure
Yeah.
that out.
And hashtags aren't everything. Like you should definitely be using them, especially if you have a low follower account. I know it's not the cool thing with the young kids, but hashtags will help you.
It's
still.
necessary.
And then other things that will help you. Someone had mentioned, should I use paid? I think when you asked the question, I still didn't catch your name. I'm so sorry. It won't show me people's names right now, but you had said, should I be using paid? Why not? If you have a little bit of budget and you know your target audience, and someone put in the comments, like, I actually like when I see ads because they're kind of custom to what I want. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I've bought in like so many products and seen so many cool services on Instagram because of a targeted ad. And I didn't know I needed that. And now, like a fun little thing, like I always tell this story, but I have like matching bracelets. My dog has a matching collar. I would never know to look for that on Google or go searching for that. But now I own like 5. So yeah.
Yeah. So sorry, Nick has a great question. He said, can you give a couple more examples of what non-visual businesses should post on Instagram? And again, we do have a very specific Instagram workshop that we can talk about. But what you can do is like, you have to show up. So when you are
behind the scenes,
like in a meeting, employees, customer, like testimonials, but actually have like a customer take
shout
a photo
out
with
your
you.
customers, share stuff from their Instagram if they allow it.
Your networking partners. So if you are a big networker, ask, if you're at a networking event, ask if you can take a quick snap and share it to your social, your social channels, tag them so that they can then share it. And just silly stuff too, like stuff you're working on, pictures of your office, your desk,
National Coffee Day, national, what's your favorite, if it's National Beer Day, what's your favorite local brewery? Because yes, is it like selling? No, but it's about your business. And that's what social is. It's about who you are as a business. And it's a place for you to attract the right people and, get like a conversation going.
And you can talk about what it is you do. You're probably not going to get sales, but it's going to help inspire people. So they understand it's about creating that relationship and building on that relationship. And so that people understand more about who you are and your why and why you do what you do. So if you're struggling with some of the other stuff, like, okay, you do want to be a person, you have to be a person. Your brand is at its core a person. So how can you convey who you are to your audience? And sometimes it's silly and sometimes it's, boring, but balancing the different options, see what people resonate with, see what they want to know more about.
So we have an HVAC company that uses Instagram. Again, they use it to attract employees. It showcases their culture. They do National Selfie Day, National Dog Day, like just pictures from their staff, their team. We have not a client, but a friend of ours is a CPA, and he's found a way to showcase his clients on Instagram and engage with them. And I can't say that you won't get sales. I'm just saying you shouldn't sell. So always think of giving. So for instance, on our social media, we have gotten inquiries and clients from Instagram, but we get a lot when we give. So for instance, right now we're doing get your free social media audit. Anybody can go to our website and get one actually, but we've been promoting it really heavily on social for the last 30 days because today is National Social Media Day. So we've been giving that out, and that's a top of funnel activity for us, because if people are saying, I want a social audit, it's a way for us to give back to them and engage with them. And obviously, they're interested in their social.
Yeah. So think about what you can provide of value to people. Stacey, I do want to get through a few more things. We're going to leave a good chunk of time to answer questions. But in terms of explaining the effectiveness of boosting a post versus creating an ad, boosting can be super easy for most small businesses, but you get a lot more statistics, data, and options if you create an ad through Ads Manager. So I know that Facebook has gone through a lot of changes where you can boost a post right on your page from Page Manager. You can also have, if you have a newer, or if you've been transferred to Business Suites, it does let you quote unquote create an ad. But if you have not created Ads Manager, you're still not using the full breadth of the ads platform. Again, we have another workshop on digital advertising. It's a little outside of what we're hoping to accomplish here with you guys today, but we're happy to answer one-on-one questions. In a
we will drop our email.
And I think you guys might get some sessions. I don't know if you've already pre-planned all of those, but
Yeah.
we are available in those sessions.
These are really good questions, but yeah, we could do a whole workshop on paid.
We have a whole workshop on paid.
So if you do have product, you do get to engage in something like this post right here. So, you can use the shop now for organic and set up your catalog, just tagging your products. And Facebook and Instagram, so Facebook and Instagram are the same, basically with
Advert, yeah.
it's
Advertising platform. Is
it's
the
owned
same.
by Facebook.
Yeah.
So when Facebook launches a new catalog or option for your e-commerce store, Instagram is likely going to be having the similar update. And when you run paid through Ads Manager, like Nicole was saying, you can also run it on Instagram or Instagram only. So just some stuff to keep in mind. Oops.
So I think we have a quick conversation on LinkedIn, which may, be prudent for some of you. We'll come back to questions. So as we talked about before, LinkedIn can be a great platform for the B2B space and for those who are in, recruiting, sales, basically, anything along those lines. Its largest it has an older demographic, and they are usually more advanced and senior in their roles at their businesses. So it's a great way if you need to speak to the decision maker at a particular business, or if you need to, make sure that your advertisements are getting in front of those people. It can be a great place to start those conversations. So it's super useful for lead generation, general networking, as well as recruiting employees. And these are just some examples of the different types of businesses that do well on the platform, whether they're IT, marketing, and advertising, such as ourselves. Software as a service does incredibly well on these platforms. But again, a lot of them follow it up with something on Facebook or Instagram so that they can make sure that they're hitting people at all times. And then obviously human resources, staffing, and consulting services. So it's a great spot to show up to people who you may be marketing to if you consult on operations and business management, things.
Business management things.
Yes, that's the professional term.
So LinkedIn best practices. Whoops. Very touchy mouse. Posting 2 to 3 times a week. I'm horrible at LinkedIn.
This is all dependent on your audience and what kind of content and things that you have to share. So again, remember, all of these platforms are dependent on your audience, how much content you have to share, and how much time you have to invest. So 2 to 3 times a week, you might be able to get away with once a week, but you may, if you have enough content and enough followers, you may get away with every day.
Yeah.
So, and then just kind of some, think about posting on Sunday nights. Sometimes it does well, sometimes it doesn't. Most people are active on LinkedIn Tuesdays through Thursdays, morning to midday, maybe Friday morning, but some people are really active on LinkedIn at night when they're home. So you really have to kind of see what your audience is doing. And to do that, you may have to test.
Yeah. So what I was getting at is if you're not going to use it consistently, then because I'm bad at it, so I just never post.
Yeah, I mean,
for myself.
Yeah, so consistency is also key across the platforms. But again, I know a lot of you mentioned businesses that I think would probably be benefit from LinkedIn. So do make sure that you're posting once a week at a minimum. 2 to 3 times a week is usually preferred. Across most platforms, Instagram is daily. Twitter is 10 times a day. So just thinking about those things. And advertising on LinkedIn is very expensive compared to Facebook and Instagram. Your cost per click, cost per lead are going to be 3 to 5 times as high. Typical cost per click, again, depends on your industry, but is usually $3 to $6, whereas Facebook might be $1 to $2 to $3. Cost per lead can be through the roof. It can be anywhere from $20 a lead to $200 a lead.
So I think with LinkedIn, it can still be a great advertising tool, but really think about your message. And so an example of this is you can afford to test a little bit more on Facebook and Instagram to play around with what's working and what's not, whereas LinkedIn is more expensive. So really take the time to think about your buyer. I get 10 messages a day asking me if I want to grow my agency. Yes, I want to grow my agency, but I all know you're trying to tell me the same thing. So instead, an effective ad would be if they sent me an email saying, hey, we have a workshop coming up. Noticed and if you can personalize your LinkedIn messages, they will go so much farther. I noticed on your website that you guys, are Google certified, and we have a workshop coming up for Google certified marketers to talk about the challenges in the market. Would you like to attend? It's, you know, it's a free intro workshop. Okay, now you have my attention. You're giving me something, you personalized it, you have hit a pain point for me, not just like, hi, this is so-and-so, I'm here to help you grow your agency. So think about your content.
And also when you're sending connection messages, everyone please stop the "hey, no name" in parentheses. Haha, just kidding, Nicole, because it's old and it's done and it's, yeah, don't personalize, don't just copy paste. So quick TikTok overview. I don't think there's actually a lot of people, but I wanted to make sure that it was here just in case. You know, TikTok is growing. It takes a lot of time to create one 15, it takes about an hour to create one 15 to 60-second video. So just really when you're thinking about like your time commitment and what you have, you know, to really commit to this, you make sure that makes sense for you. Also make sure that your audience is actually there, because typically their age groups are between the age of 16 and 24. It's not just a fad, but it's got a very specific user base and very specific content that you need to be able to produce. So same thing with Reels, which is Instagram's, you know, ripoff of TikTok. So yeah, it's a great conversation to have. It's great for brand awareness if your product can actually benefit from it. But that's more of an individualized conversation.
I lost the chat, so I can't see it. I don't know where it
Okay,
went.
I'll get it.
Okay.
We had a question about, can you explain the effectiveness of boosting a post versus creating an ad? You got that? Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Yep.
Yeah. If you're, ads manager, hands down every time.
Yeah. You're better off using Ads Manager than boosting a post. It's just a more effective platform, and you have a lot more options. So quick overview of Twitter, excellent for brand awareness. It's going to require a lot of your time, a lot of your attention, and the advertising platform is terrible. So if you have, you know, if you work with, so for like I think there was a nonprofit in the room. If you can, you know, consistently tweet, retweet, and, you know, interact with other people for, you know, 10 to 15 posts a day. And that some of those can be retweets. So like you have a couple of your own tweets and then you're retweeting content from maybe your, you know, a municipality that you work with or an audience group that you work with. It can be a great platform for that and promotion. Otherwise, you know, if you can't dedicate that much time, you're probably not going to get enough out of it to make it worth it. And if you're looking for donations, it's not the place. Snapchat, again, kind of like TikTok. If you have a younger audience, it's great for that. Their audience is a teensy bit older than TikTok, but not much. It is still a top used social media platform. But again, you know, for broad-based hits, but like best bang for your buck, we still kind of look at more of a Facebook and Instagram, you know, platform. And again, it's mostly brand awareness. You're not necessarily going to drive sales. And brand awareness, meaning like people will know your name, know more about your business. You might be able to get them on your website, but that's probably the extent of it at this point.
I will say with like quick video ads on Snapchat and things like TikTok, like I sniff out an ad, like you sniff it out in like the first second, and like it. So if you can make, they're so easy to skip because you're scrolling through more authentic content. So the ads that get my attention, I think like Febreze did a really good one, and you didn't know you were watching an ad till like a couple seconds in, and it was just like them like getting in their car and like whoa, what's that smell? And it looked like my friend, you know, like it looked like a normal person. It wasn't like high quality like TV commercial. And I watched it and I was like, that's funny. Did I buy a Febreze thing? No, but like it made an impression.
You might think about it when you're standing in the aisle.
So if you can keep your content more authentic on these for video on these channels, you'll do better if your demographic is there.
Yes, and same thing using like Instagram Reels, and then like using advertising in stories is the same concept. If you can keep it feeling just like the platform that they're in. So thinking about like, you don't want to post a static image in stories if you're going to, you know, run an ad in stories.
Don't use stock images.
Don't use stock images. So last piece, and then we'll go to some questions. Email marketing, very, very, very high level again. It does have some of the highest conversion capabilities. So if you have, if you're doing all of this activity on social media, it does make sense to ask people to give you their email address at some point. It's one of the most valuable pieces of that somebody owns, their email address or their phone number. It's one of the most valuable things that you can get from someone. And so just offering an opportunity for them to become a part of your segmented and targeted email list. So keep that email list as clean as possible. Shouldn't just be collecting to collect, but actually segmenting based on, maybe where they came from or why they, do they have a high open rate? Are they in a particular industry? Are they in a particular demographic? Whatever type of information you can glean. Making sure that it's mobile friendly and responsive. This is like the last slide, I think. But making sure it's mobile friendly and responsive. There's some common platforms that you can consider. Constant Contact, MailChimp, Sendinblue, ActiveCampaign. Constant Contact and MailChimp tend to be the ones we see the most. But I've seen a lot of retailers using Sendinblue successfully lately. And ActiveCampaign is really good for those of you who are in more of that B2B space. They have different integrations, different things that they can do, and making sure that you have a newsletter opt-in on your website or social channels, and you're sending something worthwhile at least once a month. And actually, that was supposed to get deleted because there's one more slide.
Well, I just wanted to answer. Megan asked how many people are on Twitter. I know we're on email right now, but it's about 145 million active users. Is Twitter worth it? If you can keep a conversation and a dialogue going, it's a conversation. It's literally like a chat room. It moves so fast. If anybody remembers what a chat room is. And then I will get to your question, Erin, because that is.
So just some more examples.
Hasta cuando termines.
Oh, somebody unmuted it.
I don't know where it is.
Okay, so
you can mute her as co-host. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So that's the same thing as before, but just with some more examples of what some worthwhile content might be. From if you're a store to if you are, a B2B, and you have some exclusive demos that you can offer or something like that. Tying it all together, understand your audience, know where they are, know what they want from you. Know how much time you have to dedicate to these various channels.
So I'm going to read Erin's question because it really sums it up. While social media is critical to a business's success, when you think about your advice to create and share one or several posts a day across multiple platforms, that sounds like a demanding full-time job. How do you make it manageable for a 1 to 2 person startup? Choose one platform and then have a secondary that just gets content filtered over. So you do not need to be on all. And I had someone come to me the other day and he said, I don't have sales. I don't understand. I set up my TikTok. I set up my Snapchat. It's not about how many channels. It's about which one you're using, right? And again, bring it back to your audience. Who are they and what do they want to hear from you? And what can you supply them with? And then choose your channel based off of that. Think about your industry. Or be different, maybe your industry always is on LinkedIn, but maybe you can find a way to make Instagram work for you because of the way you produce content or who you are as a person. There's, the great thing about social media is you can make it what you want it to be because it is a representation of the personal brand of who you are. So choose a platform, do it well. Don't feel like you need to be on TikTok because it's the newest best thing. And, Clubhouse popped up and tomorrow there'll be something else.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, if you haven't checked off Marketing 101, you're not going to succeed on any platform because you don't know your audience and you don't have good content.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that to you directly, Erin. I just mean in general, but so choose a platform that you can create content for, and
so
your audience is going to be there.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's important to just really, really hone in on is make sure that you choose a platform, not just for yourself, but for your audience and that you can actually create content for it. Because if you can't do that, then there's no point in utilizing the platform.
We're not on TikTok and we just recently dipped our toe into Reels because we knew that once we went down that path, we wanted to stay consistent. So we hired someone who is going to help
create
us.
Reels for us.
Yeah. And when you're too busy, what do? You hire someone. But I know it's hard to get to that point. So start where you can. And, you may not be getting direct sales from social, just think about where your customers are coming from. You know, I had another person who came to me, and I just don't think social is like, I think they need social for a brand presence and they need to have great content. But I think most of their sales are going to come from connections to local, it was local boutiques in this situation, or doing like artist fairs in like high end, like kind of like galleries and things like that. I didn't think that their product would work on social. So I just told them that while it's important for you to have social, you're also going to want to look at these other.
Yeah, and they had the classic, they joined every channel, they had a presence on every channel, but they were cross-posting the same content on every channel, which wasn't doing anything for them on any of the channels. So, you know, just leaning into 1 or 2 channels where you can adhere to the best practices, or, you know, change them up and see if it works for you.
Combining it with your
offline activities, and just really, really thinking about your buyer's journey. Just to make sure. Okay. So we have just a couple of minutes. So we've answered some questions as we go. Do we have any other questions that people would like to ask us at this point?
With Instagram, what is the most effective way to build followers?
Engage.
Yep. Follow people back who are relevant, you know, to your industry and your area. It depends, you know, we're local to Providence, so we try to follow a lot of other local businesses, our neighbors here in the office. We follow them, comment.
And use your hashtags.
Yeah. And honestly, our following, it's not that huge, but I will tell you this, it's solid. Like it's people who are local. Like it's not bots, it's not people we paid for. You can pay for followers. I would never do it.
Can is a loose term. You could go out and buy followers, but it's not going to do anything for you. So the most effective way to build followers is, you know, to engage, to go out and follow people who might be interested in your brand, you know, to actually comment on, you know, other people who are using particular hashtags, and then to make sure you're using those hashtags yourself.
Collaborations. That's a good idea too. So
it depends on your business, Megan. What do you do?
That's a great way to go following. But yeah, Megan, what is your?
I just want to answer specifically because collabs are super, super beneficial. So if you are in a retail, you know, space,
we're doing like a local, like pizza chain with like a beer collab, local beer company.
So, and for example, the collab is like they can win a picnic basket with these 2 items in it. Or if you are, you know, if you're trying to work with another photographer or another studio of some sort, you know, what can you both offer that's something of value for the people? Or can you just collab in the sense that, like, I got to be a part of a women's photo shoot the other day, and it was a women supporting women other photo shoot. And we were collabing around this idea of women supporting women, and we're all sharing and tagging each other on social. And then, so it's a nonprofit. Okay. So for collabs, I would think very carefully about, you know,
because you have a sense that you have a very important topic.
Yes.
It's not pizza.
Like, and it's sensitive.
Yeah.
And so really keep thinking very carefully about who does it make sense to collaborate with? Do their values and messages align with yours? And what could you collaborate about that's not going to turn off your audience, that's not going to make them, you know, if you're talking about collabing, you know, for donation or for brand awareness, you know, if you're raising awareness, thinking about influencers who also stand on those platforms and who have an engaged following. And when we say influencers, it doesn't have to be somebody with 1 million followers. It doesn't even have to be somebody with 10,000
Micro
followers.
influencers are super
Huge.
Powerful. So someone with even like 5,000-7,000 followers,
but an engaged following.
Yeah, it's always quality over quantity.
Yes.
So, you know, maybe it's somebody who is very passionate about your cause and has, you know, a really great following. Maybe it's a local politician or another nonprofit even that kind of complements your mission, but isn't, like, you know, the same thing. Obviously, you want the spotlight to remain on your mission. But yeah.
And advertising for an app, I mean, I think that because it's a sensitive issue, the targeting might be a little bit challenging there. It might be a bit invasive. So really thinking about, you know, I think your best bet is probably figuring out who really resonates with your message, who is a really good person to represent your brand online. And starting to develop relationships with those, because it can't be a one-off for something like that. It has to be somebody who is actually super passionate.
Yeah, the key with influencers is they have to align. It's not like, Jennifer Aniston, who's paid to promote like a vino when we know she doesn't probably use that.
Yeah, she's got some.
Quickly, I also just wonder if there's like a sexual assault awareness day or month. And I feel like this nonprofit could put out content that other businesses would want to share, like women-focused businesses. Here are facts you should care about and why.
Yeah, I think that's great. So specifically developing content that is shareable by other brands and easily shared. I mean, you can get so tips, safety tips, things to do, how statistics, things like that. All of that would be a great idea and a great way to, to build those, to foster those relationships.
Yeah.
So Jade says certain words are banned as hashtags. That's true for the most part. But I would say, that part I'm not super worried about in terms of like, because if you're building brand awareness, I think getting in front of is building relationships is really what you're looking for.
Yeah, I wouldn't use that. No. Yeah, don't use those hashtags.
Yeah, no, I mean, those are great examples. And yes, there are always workarounds for the hashtags.
But educational, like you said, Megan, definitely educational, like that, those types of posts, make sure they're shareable, make sure you use your stories, make sure you tag other associations or even businesses that align with your cause. And if you keep, tagging, you will get reshares.
I would reach out depending on what you're tagging them in. I would maybe reach out and see if they'll actually share it, like send them,
or share stuff from theirs rather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really about finding a group of other businesses, like, either local or national or international, that you can start to develop those relationships. And don't be afraid to DM people and say, hey, we're working on raising awareness around this. If I tagged you in this post, do you think you'd be able to share it? Because it is, again, social media, it's conversational. It's not a banner. It's not a billboard on the side of the road. You have an opportunity to have real conversations with people and learn more about them.
Right. Like think about it. It's the first platform that allows that two-way street, two-way conversation. It is 1:00, so if people have to go, any other questions?
If someone wants to unmute, we will take one more question. If not, please feel, Alicia and Nicole, if you don't mind sharing your website, your social media, where we can all find you.
Absolutely. So you can find us at thespark.social, and Alicia's going to drop that in the chat. We're also across Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at the Spark Social Co. So super easy to find us there. You just have to add that little CO at the end. Those are our main channels. We're super active on Instagram. It's our favorite channel to play with. So if you wanted to have a direct conversation and you DM our Instagram, we're probably going to answer you. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ladies, so much. I'm following you now.
Very much appreciated.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. We appreciate you.